For a long, long time, we've been told a story that our destiny is written in our DNA. But what if that story is completely wrong? We're about to explore a pretty radical shift in thinking, how to go from being a victim of your biology to becoming its master. Let's dive right in. So let me ask you something. Do you ever worry that your health is just a done deal? If things like cancer or diabetes run in your family, do you feel like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop? It's a really common fear, and it's rooted in an old and very powerful idea. That idea is basically the myth of genetic fate. And for decades, it was the mainstream view in science. So let's unpack what that myth actually says. It's called genetic determinism, and it's this belief that our genes are in the driver's seat, that they turn themselves on and off and control everything about us. I was actually taught this in med school. The whole idea is that your DNA is a fixed blueprint, and it dictates your entire life. End of story. Now, just think about the emotional weight of that. If your genes are in total control and you can't pick them, you can't change them, then what are you? Well, you're a powerless victim of your own heredity, just along for the ride. But thankfully, a very simple experiment came along and started to shatter that whole idea. And this brings us to a really pivotal moment from cell biologist Dr. Bruce Lipton. And it all started in, of all places, a humble petri dish. Okay, so here's what he did. Dr. Lipton took a bunch of genetically identical stem cells and split them into 3 different dishes. Then he just changed the chemical environment, the culture medium in each one. And the result? It was absolutely astounding. Even though they all had the exact same genes, the cells turned into completely different things. One group became muscle, another became bone, and the third became fat. The genes didn't decide their fate, their environment did. So it wasn't the genes randomly turning themselves on and off. No, the environment was the signal that was telling the genes what to do. This swan finding literally laid the groundwork for a brand new, revolutionary field of science. And that new field is called epigenetics. And its name alone tells you a whole new story about how our biology works. So the prefix epi literally means above. Epigenetics is the science of the control that is above the genes. It shows us that our genes aren't some fixed destiny. They're more like a library of blueprints, and it's the signals from the environment that decide which blueprints get read and when. I mean, just look at this comparison. It shows what a massive shift this is. The old view of genetic control made us victims, but this new science of epigenetic control, it shows that our perception of the environment is what controls our genes. And that, right there, is what moves us from being a victim to being the master of our own genetic activity. And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. The research is clear. A staggering 90 to 95% of cancer cases are directly related to lifestyle and environment. Less than 10% have any kind of direct hereditary link. The power isn't just in the genes, it's in the signals we're sending them. So how does this whole thing apply to you and, your 50 trillion cells? How is your internal environment created? Well, let's connect the dots. Okay, try to think of your body as a skin-covered petri dish. That makes your blood the culture medium that's constantly feeding your 50 trillion cells. And the master chemist mixing up the chemical composition of that blood, that's your brain. And this, right here, leads us to the most important question of all. If the brain is the chemist, what's telling it what chemicals to mix up and release into your bloodstream? Who's writing the prescription? The answer is your mind, your perception of the world. See, the brain translates the pictures in your mind into a corresponding chemistry. It doesn't really care if what you're seeing is real or just vividly imagined. Here's a perfect example. If you perceive a world full of love and connection, your brain releases this wonderful cocktail of chemicals, like dopamine and growth hormone. It creates an internal environment that literally enhances health. But if you perceive a world of fear, let's say from constant stress at your job, the brain floods your system with stress hormones that shuts down growth and sends all your energy to preparing for fight or flight. It's the same person, same genes, but a completely different chemical reality. So this all leads to an incredibly empowering conclusion. Your greatest power to influence your own health is actually the one you're using every single moment of every single day. It's simple, really, because you have the ability to change your perceptions. You have the ability to change your body's chemistry. You can consciously influence the environment that your cells are living in. This quote from Dr. Lipton just sums it all up perfectly. Our consciousness,
Our thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings is literally translated into biology through the chemistry of our blood.
This whole process has a name. It's called self-directed biological transformation. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it just means you have the ability to rewrite those limiting beliefs, those subconscious programs that might be creating chemistry that holds your health back. And that brings us right back to the main point of all this. You are not a victim of your heredity. Through the power of your mind, you are the master of your genetic activity. You are the chemist in charge. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Now that you've seen the science, does this idea that your thoughts act like a kind of remote control for your genes, does that make sense to you? Because thinking about it could change everything.